We are so pleased again to have the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with us, and we can't end this without, of course, having you tell us about the 20th year Million Man March celebration that's coming up.
Well, every year we've celebrated it, but on the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, we want to go back to Washington, D.C. There would not have been a successful Million Man March if it were not for Mayor Marion Barry, his lovely wife Cora Masters Barry, members of Reverend Willie Wilson's church and staff. The mayor opened up the city to us, and we will always be grateful to Mayor Marion Barry for his help. Also, Mr. Bob Johnson of BET. We made the announcement of the Million Man March on his television show with our sister Beverly Smith. And from there, the work began, but there was Mother Dorothy Height. Mm-hmm. She was the mother of the movement. And I want you to think about this. The 63 March on Washington, there was only one woman on that stage, and that was Mahalia Jackson. But at the Million Man March, the women on that stage were the monstrous women. When I say monstrous, I mean these are some of the greatest black women that we have. And I'm going to start with Maya Angelou, Dr. Betty Shabazz, our mother of the civil rights movement, Rosa Parks. There were women that stood for us as men. There were women that brought men to the buses and said, get on, you're going there to hear Farrakhan. And so that made the Million Man March a huge success. 20 years later, the condition in America is worse. Our suffering is worse. But I want to say this, Brother Cliff, something is better. And what is it? If I stepped on your toe and you had a corn, your toe wouldn't say anything, but your mouth might holler. So what connects your toe to your mouth is a nervous system that transmits pain so that you can react and say, ouch, or man, get off my toe. When Ferguson struck, it was a buildup from Trayvon Martin and from the young man Hawkins in Georgia that was rolled up in a mat. And when his mother and father and the funeral director received the body, all his organs were gone and his body was stuffed with paper. Our people heard all of this, and it was building. And as I told the mother of Trayvon Martin, I said, Mother, your son did not die in vain. He's one of the last nails in the coffin of white supremacy. Ferguson started. And when Michael Brown was killed, all of a sudden, all over America, you saw people protesting. Now, when you see an act take place in outside of St. Louis, but cities erupt all over the country, that means the nervous system of a people is being formed. So now it's getting to the point. After that, Mr. Grant. After that, the brother I Can't Breathe, Eric Garner. After that, Tamir Rice. After that, I mean, it keeps building and building, and our people are getting angrier and angrier. And what you're about to see is that these deaths have produced a spirit in the people that enough is enough. And so Washington, D.C. this time will be black people, brown people, Native American people coming to say to our government, justice or else. What is the or else? Can I have a little moment on the or else?
Please. Absolutely, Minister Farrakhan.
Then I want to start with the Dr. King, because Dr. King gave us an or else that we could do. Now God is already doing his or else. Look at the weather. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said 4 great judgments would be rained down on America, really the world. Rain, unusual rain. Snow, unusual snow. Hail, unusual hail. And earthquakes, which we haven't seen the major ones yet. Now, what does the paper say? My God, we've never seen rain like this. My God. They had to bring earth movers to move the hail that was up about 2 feet in height off the ground. Hail coming down the size of baseballs. Soon, Elijah Muhammad said, they'll be coming down as blocks of ice. He said the worst is yet to come. Now, look at what floods have done. Look at what fire on the West Coast is doing. Look at the tornadoes, 72 of them in 3 days. Oh, this is happening, brother. Drought in California, where a lot of the food that we eat is coming from. So God is doing his part. And on my album, the great Kenny Gamble, he came to me and said, Farrakhan, you know, you've been talking about these plagues that God is bringing on America, like the plagues that Jehovah brought on Pharaoh. He said, so I went home. I think you ought to do a rap. I said, a rap? He said, yes. He said, I think you ought to do one, and you're telling us this is the way God fights. So he went home and wrote, I'll fight you. And I did the words, and a team put together the video, and then Rick Ross, Snoop, Common, all of them did the, what do you call it? The remix.
Yeah.
With Young, I mean, and then the minister. Oh, he rapping. Yeah. I'm not going to go into that now. But brothers and sisters, look.
From Mendelssohn to rap.
Yeah,
okay.
God is fighting. And he said the battle is not yours. It is mine. Then the God said, vengeance is mine. You can't do what God can do, but on our level, we can do something. Listen to what Dr. King said. He said, now this is the last night of his life. He said, the other thing we'll have to do is this. Always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. Now, we are poor people individually. We are poor. But when you compare us with white society in America, we are poor. But never stop and forget that collectively, that means all of us together, we are richer than practically all the nations in the world, with the exception of 9. Did you ever think about that? After you leave the United States, Soviet Russia, Great Britain, West Germany, France, and I could name the others, the American Negro collectively is richer than most nations of the world. We have an annual income of, at that time, of $30 billion a year. Today it's 1.3 trillion. He said, which is more than all of the exports of the United States, more than the national budget of Canada. Did you know that? That's power right there if we know how to pool it. Listen to Dr. King. This is why they killed him, brothers and sisters. He said, we don't have to argue with anybody. We don't have to curse and go around acting bad with our words. We don't need any bricks and bottles. We don't need any Molotov cocktails. We just need to go around to these stores and to these massive industries in our country and say, quote, God sent us by here to say to you that you are not treating his children right. And we've come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you are not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow, and our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you. He was talking about redistributing pain. Are we in pain? Well, how do you redistribute pain? Listen to what he says. We're asking you tonight to go out and tell your neighbor not to buy Coca-Cola in Memphis. Go by and tell them not to buy Seal Test milk. Tell them not to buy Wonder Bread. And what is that other bread company, Jesse? Tell them not to buy Hart's bread. As Jesse Jackson has said up to now, only the garbage men have been feeling pain. Now we must kind of redistribute the pain. We're choosing these companies because they haven't been fair in their hiring policies, and we are choosing them because they can begin the process of saying they're going to support the needs and the rights of these men who are on strike. And then we can move on downtown and tell Mayor Loeb to do what is right. But not only that, we've got to strengthen black institutions. He said, I call upon you to take your money out of the banks downtown and deposit your money in Tri-State Bank. We want a bank-in movement in Memphis. Go by the Savings and Loan Association. I'm not asking you to do something that we don't do ourselves at SCLC. Then he says, we're telling you to follow what we are doing. Put your money there. We have 6 or 7 black insurance companies here in the city of Memphis. Take out your insurance there. We want to have an insurance in. Now, these are some practical things that we can do. We begin the process of building a greater economic base, and at the same time, we're putting pressure where it really hurts.
But that's somewhat comparable to what the nation has been talking about all the time.
Of course. But this is the beauty of Dr. King. In February of 1967, 14 months before he was assassinated, he met with Elijah Muhammad.
Okay.
And after he met with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his language began to change. I have something else that he said, and maybe not the right time, but he started talking about land. He started talking about getting land.
Listen, Brother Minister, we only got 4 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll save that for another time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been asking everybody, what is most important to you? When people talk about Minister Farrakhan, what is the most important thing you want them to think of?
My brother, Martin Luther King, they asked him a similar question. And he said, I would like you to tell them that I am a drum major for justice. What good is our life if we don't use our life, and if necessary, lose our life in a cause that's bigger than our lives? Mm-hmm. So to go to Washington for justice, to go with a mind that justice is worth fighting for, justice is worth sacrificing for. So if you want to think about Farrakhan, the greatest thing I could hope to see is black men and women falling in love with each other. As Jesus said, love ye one another, even as I have loved you. And if we learn loving each other, doing right by each other, pooling our resources with each other, then our unity will make us more powerful than a nation that has hydrogen atomic bombs. You haven't tried unity. Let's try it. Let's not talk about it. The enemy doesn't ever want to see us unified. Let's drive him up the wall with love and care for one another. Thank you so much, Cliff.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, those of you who listen.
You're wonderful, sir. We're going to be inviting you back, and of course we're going to be talking about the Million Man anniversary. I'll be there, you know.
God willing, I hope to be there too.
We're all going to be there. Thank you so much, Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. Love you.
Thank you. Love you
so
more.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.